The night they tried to burn down my cabin was the moment I finally understood just how far this HOA was willing to go. I remember standing on that porch with my grandfather's old rifle in my hands, watching three masked idiots drop gasoline cans and sprint into the dark, and thinking, my God, these people would rather commit arson than admit I own this valley. And the scariest part? They still had no idea I held the mineral rights under every inch of land they were trying to steal from me. I didn't plan on being the guy who'd end up fighting an entire HOA empire or the lunatic queen who ruled it. All I wanted was to go home. After 3 years away, working the oil fields, scraping together enough money to keep my mom in memory care until she passed, I thought the valley would welcome me back the way the mountains always had. Quiet mornings, pine-scented air, that old cabin built by my great-grandfather in 1923. It was supposed to be the one place in the world that hadn't changed while I was gone. Instead, I came home to steel chains across my driveway, a shiny private community road sign screwed into a tree my family planted, and a line of multi-million-dollar glass palaces blotting out the meadow where I learned to fish as a kid. The first sound I heard wasn't wind or birds. It was the crunch of tires from a white Range Rover pulling up like it owned the mountains. And out stepped this woman, perfect blonde bob clipboard clutched like a weapon, perfume thick enough to choke wildlife. "Well, well, the hermit returns," she said, like she'd been practicing the line in the mirror all morning. "This is private property now. You're trespassing." I looked her dead in the eyes. "Ma'am, that's my cabin up there. My family has owned this land since 1923. Her smile froze sharp as broken glass. "Not anymore. It isn't." Her name was Vivian Ashworth, though folks around Pine Ridge called her the HOA Queen. 54 years old, more makeup than compassion, and the exact type of person who thinks a clipboard gives them God's authority. She handed me a thick envelope packed with violation notices, 47 of them. Apparently the cabin that existed before her grandparents were born was violating architectural standards. My great-grandfather's cedar roof wasn't approved. The root cellar that fed my family through the Great Depression was an unauthorized outbuilding. The wildflowers God himself planted were non-compliant landscaping. Total fines $73,500, with $500 a day until I corrected everything. Who finds wildflowers? What kind of brain rot do you need to look at a 100-year-old homestead and think, you know what this place needs? More rules. I tried to stay calm even as my blood started to boil. I wasn't part of this HOA. I hadn't signed a damn thing. So the same day I drove to the county clerk's office, old building, creaky floors, and Jolene, who'd worked there since the Carter administration. When she saw the paperwork, her face went from friendly to funeral serious. "Deck," she said, "none of this applies to you. HOA covenants require unanimous consent. Your signature ain't on a single document." So I drove home thinking the nightmare was over. I should have known better. The next morning, my driveway filled with SUVs. Vivian climbed out wearing what I can only describe as an REI safari costume, perfect boots that had definitely never touched real dirt, followed by 3 HOA disciples dressed exactly like her. They marched around my property, snapping pictures of everything. My woodpile, my truck, the stump where I split logs. Hell, if they could zoom in on my stubble, I bet they would have cited that too. "Mandatory architectural inspection," she chirped. "You're trespassing," I said. She waved her papers like a magic wand. Section 4.7 gives us full authority. Section 4.7 of Covenants. I never signed. I cut her off. "This land wasn't legally included. You have 10 seconds to leave." Her face went red, then purple. She herded her committee back to the SUVs and hissed out her window. "You'll regret this attitude, Mr. Forrester. We deal with troublemakers." And boy did she try. The next morning, my mailbox practically exploded with 14 new violations. My outhouse illegal, my truck offensive, my firewood. A threat to property values. I swear if I'd left a hat on the porch, she would have sent me a fine for inappropriate headwear display. That was when I noticed the timestamps on the photos. 3 days old, meaning they'd been sneaking on my land long before that inspection visit. Creeping around at dawn, taking unauthorized photos, whispering about ways to push me off my own family's property. So I had an idea. There's still one radio shack left in mountain country. God bless them. I bought 6 trail cameras with audio and night vision, set them up around the cabin, and waited. 2 days later, jackpot. Vivian and her cronies dressed like suburban ninjas sneaking around at sunrise. And the audio, crystal clear. Document every violation. Pressure him into selling. What about environmental complaints? Brilliant idea. They were openly plotting to weaponize government agencies against me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to smash something. I wanted to ask God how the hell a man could be trespassing on his own land. Instead, I took the footage to Earl, the county health guy. And right on cue the next morning, he called. "Deck, I'm sorry, buddy. We got a complaint about your septic. Says it's contaminating groundwater. I'm required to check." "Come on up," I told him. "Bring your full test kit." By noon, Earl was shaking his head. "Your system is cleaner than half the new installs in the county. Whoever filed this complaint is either ignorant or flat out lying." I handed him a USB drive. "Earl, they planned this." My victory lasted about 24 hours, because the next day, the cavalry arrived, but not mine. 3 government trucks, a building inspector, a state environmental officer wearing hazmat gear like he was entering Chernobyl, and behind them, a local news crew setting up like they were filming a disaster documentary. Complaints of contamination, complaints of structural instability, complaints of illegal waste disposal. It was a circus, and Vivian was the ringmaster smirking off camera, pretending to be just a concerned resident. That's when it hit me. Hard. Maybe they could drown me in bureaucracy. Maybe they could twist the press twist, the county twist, every agency with their false reports. Maybe they could take my home, the cabin my mother grew up in, the only piece of my family history I actually had left. And for the first time, I felt my confidence crack. I remember standing there staring at my cabin surrounded by hazmat suits and government vans, wondering, did I misjudge this? Am I fighting a battle I can't possibly win? I actually considered selling, packing up, leaving the valley to the vultures. But that night, sitting alone with nothing but kerosene light and photographs of my mom on the bookshelf, something shifted. My great-grandfather didn't carve a life out of these mountains, so his bloodline could roll over to a power-hungry HOA dictator. My mother didn't sacrifice her final years, so I could just give up. And I sure as hell hadn't worked half my life on oil rigs, freezing and breaking my back to get bullied out of land that carried my family's name. I wasn't done, not even close. I went back to the county library and dug deeper. Old maps, old deeds, mineral surveys, patent files. And what I discovered changed everything. My great-grandfather didn't just homestead 320 acres. He filed mineral claims covering the entire valley. Every ridge, every slope, every inch under every mansion Vivian built. And those rights, they never got transferred. Not once. Meaning every building permit issued for Pine Ridge Estates was illegal. Meaning Vivian built her kingdom on land she didn't control. Meaning I held the trump card she never saw coming. I took all of it to a property rights attorney in Colorado Springs. Roxanne sharp as a razor. Coffee stronger than diesel. The type of lawyer who enjoys hunting corrupt people for sport. She built a team, a former federal investigator, an environmental attorney, a forensic accountant, and the deeper they dug, the uglier it got. Fraud in Texas, harassment campaigns in Florida, property scams in Arizona, fake environmental complaints, forced sales, illegal permits, money funneled through shell companies. Vivian wasn't just a petty HOA tyrant, she was running a multi-state criminal enterprise. And then came the night they tried to burn me out. 3 masked figures creeping up with gas cans and road flares. My cameras caught the whole thing, audio, faces, the whole plan. I stepped out on the porch, rifle in hand, flashlight beam cutting through the dark. "Beautiful night for a walk," I said. "You've got 10 seconds before I call the sheriff." They ran so fast, one of them fell into a bush. That was the final nail. Within days, the FBI, the IRS Criminal Investigations Unit, and the EPA were all involved. A RICO case, federal fraud, environmental crimes, conspiracy, witness intimidation. They built a wall of evidence around Vivian so high she had nowhere to run. But she still tried. She cut her hair, tried to flee to Mexico with duffel bags of cash and gold coins, filed insane lawsuits accusing me of being a federal agent planted to destroy her legitimate business empire. She even hired a private military contractor, guys with night vision gear and fancy equipment, to monitor my property. It didn't matter, because one morning just after sunrise, the sky filled with helicopters. Federal agents lined the road. News vans poured in from Denver, and Pine Ridge residents watched from their million-dollar porches as the entire HOA leadership was perp-walked out of their homes. The queen of the HOA went down kicking and screaming. The look in her eyes when they cuffed her, I'll never forget it. She still didn't understand how the mountain man she tried to bully ended up being her downfall. A month later, I sat in the federal courtroom for sentencing. Vivian shuffled in wearing an orange jumpsuit, hair grown out, hands trembling. She tried one last performance, blaming me, the government, the deep state, the environment, hell, probably the pine trees too. The judge wasn't impressed. 25 years in federal prison. 10 years supervised release, $69 million in restitution, total asset forfeiture. The courtroom was so quiet you could have heard a snowflake hit the floor. She spun around, locked eyes with me, and screamed, "Forrester, you destroyed everything." But the truth is, she did that herself, and just like that, it was over. No triumphant music, no cheering crowd, just federal marshals picking her up by the elbows and escorting her out of the room while reporters scribbled down every detail. One sentence. That's all I'll add because it's the only thing that matters after everything I've been through. If you ever find yourself fighting people who think rules make them untouchable, just remember, tyrants collapse the moment someone finally stands up and pushes back.